Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Tuesday, June the 11th, 2019. And I'm back again with my gal pals, BZ Rieger and Lisa Femino Rush. And BZ gave us a couple of titles for this one, and I really like this. I chose this time. Let go of the past, embrace your change. And I said that I wanted to talk about this one because I really feel like even the astrology is very supportive of this over this past week. And I really feel like it's going to carry over into this week too. For bringing up things that, from one's past. That's on an individual level. And I realize that this is the past. So there's a lot of stuff in this one, but it's all really, I feel like, coming up for not just review, but the holding, allowing it, if it's painful, to flow through and complete all of what it needs to complete so that it can be let go. For me personally, I feel like that's an important thing, because as long as I'm pushing something down or suppressing it and not feeling it and not allowing it to inform me of what it really wants, why it's presenting in the first place, then it will never go away. It's just going to keep coming up and coming up. It's like,
well, the car will keep honking louder or crashing into you, or whatever metaphor you want to use on that until. Can you hear me now?
Right. I mean, it's I like to talk about it in the form of a splinter or a wound of some sort. It just continues to fester until it's allowed to present in all of its icky, messy glory, and let it go, drain it out, let it flow away. And really that applies to more than just one's personal life. I see that in this title by the fact that it's the past.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much that that we're really becoming aware of now. It's always been there. And this is in terms for me of the systems that we've had in place. Okay. The past, everybody thinks, well, it used to work. No, the difference, because there's a whole lot of folks still that think it's broken and we need to fix it. No, it's always operated in the manner.
It's always been this beautifully delicious. Always, 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 always. From the moment of inception.
Right. The difference now is we're seeing it.
Right.
It's showing we are able to see it for what it has always been.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like this title and the idea of embracing your change because, well, really, at this moment of now, there's a whole crap ton of stuff out there that hasn't actually changed, but I sure have. And so my experience of it and other things very much like it has also changed. So that's an introduction to it of what you were saying there, BC. And I want everybody to know it's still kombucha. It's not wine. I'm off the wine right now. See? But anyway, so when this nudge came in for you, BZ, what did you have in mind with this? I mean, I know that it's much more broad than what I just said, but that's what I saw in this title. I mean, like I said, for me, this week in particular, because of, and I don't think it's because of the astrology, I just notice it because I notice the astrology, that the energetics are very supportive of being able to look at all sorts of things, not just, the sludge that still, wanders around in my field, but the overall, sludge that's in all of our fields. Um, I think it's all here now. It always has been, but it's like I can feel it all here now.
Yeah, and if you were looking for, clues, there should probably be quotes around the past, because that's a tip off that there is no past, present, or future, and your change, not the changes, not the this, that, but your change, because you could think of it in terms of metamorphosis, or a transmutation, transfiguration, all those kinds of things. And one of the things that came through is that you could say it one way, that it's all tied into itself. It all is corollary to each component. So your change, and you are a human being in a physical body, and your change from a human being in a physical body, from the organic original human template, the divine human template, into the configuration that you were tinkered into and then morphed through to here, where that glow of source, that glow of you, the glow of the all and the connected and the oneness within you kept pulsing and burning brighter and shining brighter, and little pinholes of that pulse would get through and transmit to others, and you kind of would pulse back and forth to each other in this wonderful syncopation and cosmic dance of reverberation, of light exchange, moving back and forth as it pulsed over time, so that you in essence were talking to you in the other yous that are the one, to amplify and magnify and reverberate the change. Another way to describe it is that your source, and so all have gone forth for source to know source, and done a beyond brilliantly amazing job of relaying that telemetry, diving deep in all layers and levels and dimensions and densities, all forms, all structures, all all capacities that you are taking form and no form as, and that is your change, right? And any time, any instance, any way of description or characterization, whatever form we were taking, if we're looking to the past, right? Its function is solely as a platform to move into the change and to claim your change. So it's not a beginning, middle, and end. It's a wholeness. It's a oneness with each specificity, which with each singularity, with each unique capabilities and penchants and desires and familiarity to. And I'm speaking of whether you're a human in the chair or standing up or the car, wherever you're encountering this conversation, or a planet or anything else that you are already currently right this moment being. Because it's not just the human driving the car or sitting in a chair or whatever it is. And this is the moment where it's a node point to acknowledge that the quote-unquote the past can be released, because it's not foreshadowing anything to come. Because in multidimensionality that you are, that doesn't occur.
I keep feeling like it's time to be the change that you desire. So it's just where you just decide to be it and
Right.
embody it for yourself.
Right.
And that's enough. That's all.
Well, as both of you were speaking there in regards to that, what kept coming for me was the as even though the linear prior little personality portion of me in the front part of my consciousness, that both of you are aware of why I say it like that, up here, what I thought I knew, it's the same as with the system thing that I was just talking about. I've always been source, always. Not any of that has changed. I've always been source. I allowed myself, so it's just that I'm waking up, sort of. I don't like using that terminology either, but I'm finally seeing that I have always been source, and that even during all of those individual moments that I'm calling the past, when you engage the linear portion of my brain and sit and think of those times in what, I would call the past, I can now see where every single action, non-action, step, experience that I've had, not just building up to this moment of now, but I've orchestrated for specific purposes. Not all of them. I have chosen not to reveal all of them to myself, and I've finally figured out why. There's, for good measure, for good reasons, and not only that, because I know I used to hold it differently. I think there are delicious reasons for that. As the all, I have it all already. So, and in holding it away from myself, there's a delicious bit of, I now see why you use that term so much, BZ. Delicious. To savor all those morsels. And I get it when I have been in the midst of, some of the most heinous crap that I have been exposed to, that I allowed myself to be exposed to, when in the midst of all of that, I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh, how delicious this experience is. No. So please don't misunderstand, because this girl set up some pretty horrific stuff for herself, let me just say. But I also see, as part of the all, not necessarily the actual why of it, but I can certainly see the design of it. And apparently it was just whatever it was I wanted to experience. And I got more coming there's more where that came from.
Were you going to say something, Lisa, or was that just a background noise?
It was just background noise.
Okay. I didn't want to step on your,
Thank you.
It's funny, you asked something like what came in when this came in around all this, and sometimes it seems like it's complete when it comes in. Sometimes it's just the title and it unpacks itself, or in the moment, or sometimes, like in the last conversation, I get a bit of an inkling, and about, I don't know what, 20/10 of a nanosecond before we push the record button, I get the rest. But the reason I started describing that is because in this moment I see so much more is unfolding. We reveal what unfolds, and how in that moment each of us, that's a trinity, and the trinity of all of us, and then all of the rest that's in the group, already having experienced this in no form, brings into it. And so one of the ways I might describe that a little bit more is that you could think of this title, this conversation, as all a play on words on so many levels. Right from the very beginning of Source sending out, the flash and all the different energy streams in waves to go forth to know Source, and then so on and so on and so forth. So let going of the past and all of those things, because ultimately that's what all of this really is. Just like you either have love or fear, and if you look at something that makes you angry or annoyed or frustrated or frightened or in discomfort, there is a fear frequency within that. And so if you can dive into the anger or those other words that I just described long enough just to play with it, to meet it, to encounter it, to engage with it, not to get down and dirty and wrestle with it and stay stuck there, but to see what is it that I had set up to experience, to remind myself of, to, as you began this conversation, Sheila, where we wanted to know things and then come, go all the way out and then come back from that. And in doing that and setting up, difficult, horrific, all those kinds of things. And one of that comes through because we wanted to go even further. So in another lifetime, in another embodiment, another non-embodiment, wherever we were and what we were doing, we went and played with and experienced different things, and we wanted to kick it up another notch. And so what better way to have our own expansion, because I'm talking about in each individual being now, looking at this, feeling into it, reconciling, however you're going to hold this, and that will depend on your perspective of this sucks, or, oh, okay, I can see a broader perspective of it. And all are perfectly valid, because when you're in the this sucks and it royally sucks, hey, it's really obvious. and if you have a penchant like me where you got this sucks squared and multiplied and trebled and a couple other things in front, and you run out of words to describe just how far under a rock of suckatudinous that it is. But I digress. So in that is what a wonderful way to gather more data, to send back more telemetry, to disguise yourself, to really deaf, dumb, and blind yourself to the fact that you are a magnificent creator being, that you are a source, that you are unlimited, than to put you in a place that makes you feel so small, so put upon, so frightened, so fearful, whatever it is. Because again, it's either fear or love. And so that's what this speaks to. And it's one of those that came through where the title itself has a tremendous amount of frequency and energy and transmissions embedded, imbued, encoded in it. And depending on how one plays with it, or how one is in the frequency neighborhood of, or the perceptual engagement of in their own personal life, whether it's just within themselves or something in this sphere of their life or that sphere, meaning family or job or whatever, it will play with them in a different way. It will reveal different things to them. It will allow them it will allow them to tailor make their own journey, encounter with and through, and personalize what comes to them from this, because it is them bringing it to them. It's them creating it for them. If someone says, gosh, I have this problem, I need a solution, and all of a sudden there's someplace and they meet, it could be anything, but we're just talking about this particular video, they meet this particular video. It's not an accident. It's not a happenstance. And yes, there is something and frequency and energy and passion encoded in it by, again, I said each individual of us, that's a trinity, and then the trinity of all of us, and then so on, as I described before. But the magic truly happens when that co-creation and co-connection comes in, where a being will listen to it and reveal something to themselves through this. It comes out because they have created this video specifically for themselves. And it would be accurate to say that this beings and this beings and this beings and this beings separate recording, whether it's you took the whole video, audio and visual, or you just stripped the audio out, however you're doing it, right, is again tailor-made, and there are nuanced differences between them, because they're the orchestrator, they're the conductor, and the one who's painting all of the visuals, the energetic streams onto the canvas for themselves. That doesn't just happen with this particular video or any of the ones that we do, but it happens with all things, because that's how we touch and interact and work our superpowers through all of anything that we go through. It's all frequency, and we are always making that frequency cake that so that we're making like little cupcakes or something all the way through, as we're we're having a bite of that and a trying of this, and we're doing this frosting. This is how we're doing it. And if we have forgotten that, or if we've narrowed our focus so far down, then what it looks like is, I'm in a body, I'm in a female body, I live, in this part of the world, and I am a X, Y, and Z, and I do an X, Y, and Z thing, and this is how I spend my time, and I get a certain amount of, FRNs, and spend it in a certain way, and, certain people are really helpful, or seem to be under the thumb of these, and that can be our very narrow perception. And when we have a dream, or a musing, or a walk, or a fun encounter, and we have a change in how we feel, and the light seems to change, or we have a connection in a different way, what that is, remember I started at the beginning of this conversation, that's that pulsing that's coming through to remind us to reconnect the human mind and embodiment that we're at the beginning, so to say, and the end, and the totality, which is source. We're all right here. We got it all going on. And it's up to us to allow ourselves to love ourselves, to trust ourselves, to connect ourselves to that. Because I can guarantee it. And here's a memo. Source does. Because we got sent out on a mission. And we haven't been recalled.
Well, in some of that I heard, because my very first recording with you, you made it clear to me that I called you forth.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grok that then. I do now. So I get what you're saying there on a very huge level. And I also heard a lot in that, in what you just said from our previous video in regards to labels. I'm in a female body. I live here and I do this, and those are all just labels.
Right, which is why I said it the way I did.
How our linear brains categorize, and it is a method of, it's ingenious. It was the way that we set it up to be, because again, being all one, the source of everything, there has to be a method for, stretching it all out to have an experience that's not everything all at once. And so I get it with the labels, but because I see that as part of the past,
Mm-hmm.
that is time to let go of.
Yes.
Because all of those labels, that's really all they are. And I get it now as to why they were so necessary. And here's another little thing. At one time, in the overall scheme of things, of how to parse it all out, there was really no other way to do it besides that. That was really the only way.
The cicadas were over here screaming in agreement with you, Sheila. It was deafening.
Oh, wow.
I muted because the neighbor just started mowing the lawn, and I didn't know if that was interrupting. And the minute I hit mute, the cicadas started. The loudest chorus of support for what you were saying.
Wow.
Well, think of it, if, if you are everything, and you know everything, and you create everything, and you are within everything, and you want to go forth and know more, create more, be more, experience more, try different configurations into the nth squared, there's some other mathematical thing after that, more into affinity, then that's a pretty good way to do it, right? Is to take that away. And it's another way to allow you to see, and all who are those streams of energy of you going out to do all these things, to create more at the same time. So in other words, you're discovering, you're reporting back, sending telemetry back, okay, if I do this, it's this, and then there's this potentiality and that potentiality, because it's quantum and this multidimensionality to it, right? So it's telemetry back, just raw data. I did this happened, boom. And this other part of me did this and that, so you've got all those channels. And that's cool, that's good. That's good data. It's go out and report back and okay, great. But kick it up another notch of when you let go of the past, right? And what did I say? Embrace. So you're embracing it. When you think of an embrace, you're hugging, right? So you're holding. So you're bringing it all together. Let's bring it all in together, right? To a big thing. That's not just you and all of you doing that. That's just not maybe the three of us doing that. That's not just, you could say just the U.S., although it certainly isn't, or just the Anons, or, it's not any, it never is just those things. All those things are revealing, things have been hidden and all that kind of stuff. But in all of that, and it's not just on this planet, it's all in all of Source's multiverse. So every level, every layer, every dimension, every embodiment, every non-embodiment, every just energy stream, every planet, every quasar, everything. All covers it. It's a short word. It's got it all in it. And when you do that, no matter what the path was, no matter what the setup was for, you could call it amnesia, you could call it blindfolds, you could call it whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Again, it's just a label, so hey, whatever turns you on, go ahead and use it. But there's a creation factor when that pulse is in all of those beings, and a structure is a being, is all of that, because it's alive, because it is a coordinated and cohesive structure. Like a thought form is a cohesive structure which has a reality to it and a creational force to it. And that pulse of Source is within all of that. And so as we're talking about, let go of the past. So if the past was something that really had you, to use linear words, so befuddled or so freaked out or so flustered or so, insert any word that works for you, so enamored with, the fast car, the fast paying job, the babe, the dude, whatever it was, that's the thing. And yet through all of that, whatever that was for you, you felt that pulse. And that pulse was becoming more and more alive and enlivened and insistent and palpable, and kept in little moments, like your vision would clear, like all of a sudden, wow, what is that? You'd hear things, you'd see things, you'd feel things, you'd sense things, you'd know things. Then that's embracing your change. Because not only is it the change from what you thought you were, put upon and beaten up and all that kind of stuff, but it's also the change from when you went forth to know Source. You've changed everything in you, your change in you, your change that you change with all of Source because of all that you have gone forth and created and been and done.
Well, there was something in what you said there that led me to feel not well. Yeah, to feel and to sit to share. I really don't, for me personally, I don't feel like what we're doing here means that the physical human experience is ending, or that, no, quite the opposite for me. And what I mean by that is, because I have noticed in certain situations that when one speaks about the all, and this kind of goes a little bit to what we spoke of a little bit off camera in regards to spiritual shaming and that sort of thing. Like, it's not a spiritual, like being in the physical body is base or that sort of thing. And it's not at all that for me. That's part of the whole idea of having this specific experience. And so I think there's and hey, you know, I'm not, it's all choices, choices. Folks can feel how they like about all of it. But for me, it's a more of an enriching experience. First of all, coming to I don't like the word understanding. Grokking for me, for some reason, is a much better word, because for me, it's more than just understanding. It's really getting it through all levels of this particular physical vessel, because understanding for me is almost like an intellectual thing. I know this doesn't probably make sense, where a grokking for me is more on not just the intellectual level. It permeates different layers of my system. So that's just a word that for me means more than understanding. And for some reason, there's a grokking in me now that I didn't have before in regards to my physical existence. The fact that I am the all in a physical body, at least a large portion of it, not the all, because I wouldn't fit, I don't think, but you get my meaning. And by embracing my change, all caps instead of your change, by embracing my change, it has changed everything about the way I view things from outside of this, from the inside of the physical vessel. And it's changed the way I grok my physical vessel. It's changed the way I feel about my physical vessel, the way I feel about a lot of different things that I don't think I really grasped before, not just in regards to the physical vessel, but all of what we're speaking on here. And so I know that in the past, my own personal past, when I thought about a spiritual journey, there was a lot about, again, one of the things that I never felt comfortable with, the whole dissolving of, cutting of, killing of the ego. I couldn't grok that. It didn't make any sense. And so, because that's part of the whole, that's part of the whole experience. It doesn't mean that Smarmy gets to run the show anymore. I mean, now don't get me wrong. He comes out for twirls around the dance floor every now and again, but that is a part of who I am. And I got no intentions of cutting anything out. I've had enough cutting done on this body. Thank you very much. I don't think I'm going to cut anything else out. And I know that, and there's loads of folks who feel like, beam me up, Scotty, I'm ready to leave here. And I get that because I used to be one of those kind of folks. I'm ready for this to be over. Let's do something new. I don't want to be here in this existence anymore. And
that's how we get to the new, because we
right.
make the new, and we create it and we embrace it. And it's a frequency thing. When you're saying beam me up and get me out of here, don't want to be here anymore, instead of moving to something new, it's avoiding and trying to get away from where you are. And that's never going to get you to where you purportedly want to go, because the frequencies are a mismatch. You can't ride on that. One thinks that if this is over here, let beam me up. I want to leave this, and you're thinking that you're going to get there. Well, I'm just going to jump over here. It can't. You're actually pointing yourself in the opposite direction in a frequential, highway, roadmap, however you want to say it. That doesn't mean you have to say, try to pretend and put on a face that, I love this is great, and yeah, because that's just a false frequency, and you can't fake the frequency.
No.
When you connect with, feel with, and be part of what is and where you are, you move through it, and you move to where you wish to go, only this time you're truly creating where you wish to go instead of trying to get away from something. You're moving to something instead of trying to get away from something. Anytime you try to get away from something, you actually keep circling the building in a frequency.
Yeah, no. Well, I know that you're right about what you speak. Lisa helped me with that a lot last week, in particular, in regards to grief. She really helped me see that. Every single time it came up, I was like, I'm done with this. I want it to be over. Why can I? So yeah, it's the same. It's the exact same. I feel like what you're saying there is the exact same. And I just thank you so much, Lisa, because she very lovingly pointed out to me that, well, okay, but
you just circled the block again.
Right. Well, I catch myself doing the same thing. I have my own things I loop-de-loo on. But the more that you can catch it and release it, just, be like, oh, that's really not what I'm going to spend my focus and attention on right now. Right. It's helpful.
Right. Well, and like, that's why I said there's the whole idea for me of running away from something, and that's exactly what Lisa was sharing with me. Okay, but if you're trying to just, that's kind of like the same old thing about you're running from it,
right?
Instead of, and so it's a whole new thing for me as far as sitting and allowing, because again, that for me, there was a lot of programming and conditioning that I allowed, that I soaked up every last gooey morsel of, in regards to stuffing down emotions and getting rid of them. And no, you can't, we don't do that. That's not right. You don't do that. And so by not part of the feeling can be the emotion that's attached to it.
Yes.
Which could be anger, grief, just name a label, any kind of thing, it can come up. And rather than push it down, because again, when I first started all of this with, looking into the whole journey, right? Because there's a lot attached to that, the journey of spirituality and what the do's and don'ts thereof, and there's a lots of them, and sometimes very scripted ways to go about it. And of course, none of that felt very good to me, which is probably why I'm 58 before I'm getting the hang of any of this. I think there's a reason for all that, though, because if I can do it, there's hope for everybody. Let's just put it that way.
Well, a lot of it too is attachment to something. So, let go of the past. So you could be your past, the past, what happened yesterday, or what you did, or what they said, or what this happened, or what the result was, or, the reaction to, however you want to, it doesn't matter, work, job.
Insert label here.
Yeah, insert whatever. There's an attachment, and it's also, there's an attachment not only to the hurt or the annoyance or the frustration. Usually there I use a lot of the negative emotions, because those are the ones that get us more in the loops, because there's more of an attachment, because there's someone, let's take someone said something. So if someone said something and it hurt you or offended you, that's, a bit of a wound, but that's partly fear, because fear, what if they're right? Fear in, okay, well, I'm supposed to be expanding in love and I'm feeling this, so, okay, did I get it wrong? I mean, you could, I just named two, but there's a bazillion of them that you could do on that, and that's attachment to it. And what would happen if just for a moment, you can pick it up after the moment's over, but just for one moment, you let that go, whether it was a combination of words or slights or things, and you let it go. And you embraced your change right in this moment, because the moment you let go of the attachment and you lay it down, you have actually severed and disconnected that energy frequency. So your change is instantaneous.
I agree with you, but I have a question for you about that. Maybe you could help me with this, because this has come up quite a bit for me in regards to, family, friends, children. Because, we have attachments, right? In the familial sense, in a way. And that's a bit of a toughie there. And can be seen as, especially when there's an attachment to a particular, I don't know, let's say behavior, okay? Like this person has always behaved in this particular sort of way. Well, now they've embraced their change and have seen where in the past maybe they've participated in some behavior that wasn't good for anybody. Not self, not other, not self as other, not other as self, nobody. And so now, yeah. And so now there's, right, get that? And so now this person, let's say me, erects some boundaries, okay? And the behavior has changed. And the attachment to all of that has been put down. And those around, don't get it, don't grok it, and are feeling as though it's a very unloving behavior at this point. I don't feel that way at all. I think it's very loving, because they too are source and are perfectly capable of being responsible, accountable, and liable to themselves for all of their own choices, and have the right to make those choices, whether I like them or not, which in lots of cases I don't. So But I've laid down my attachment to whether or not they have to make those choices. So, I mean, I'm not asking for advice here. I'm just putting something out there. This happens when you embrace your change
Yes.
in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be, it is a very nuanced, we all know how Sheila loves nuance, right?
Well, sometimes it's really blatant. It's not nuance isn't even anywhere near the planet.
Well, yes, but I'm saying that, and I'm speaking in terms of frequency, and now I can see where I didn't really grok what was meant by an intellectual exercise for a long time, until now I'm seeing some things around me that feel like, well, if one cannot grok that every individualized source, because that's what we really are, is individualized source. That's what I view myself as. Has the right to behave in whatever fashion they prefer. That's their choice.
Yeah.
And just because, and so if someone doesn't, oh gosh, hold on a second. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. If something came up and said to restart, I hope my computer doesn't. If we flip out of this conversation, I'm going to freak out. So oh no, it looks like it's going to try. Oh my gosh, I hope not. I don't know.
Bye everyone. Until next time. This is
oh no, it is restarting.
Bye.
No, stop. How can I make it stop?
She left and we stayed.
I know. I love it. Okay, well,
Bye, Sheila.
Sheila's in the house freaking out. She's attached to. This is why we both record.
I love this.
So, I'll jump in here.
I love you.
There is nuance to it. The nuance to the frequencies, nuance to the attachment, nuance to what's going on. There's also, Sheila was mentioning, well, she feels every being has a right to behave the way they choose to behave. And look at, absolutely. And at the same time, if one is doing something that is infringing on someone else's space and causing, perceived harms and other things, then the other being who's made the change in this example Sheila gave can choose to stay in her center and keep that change or not.
Yes.
To flow with the, kind of the like a river, beats on the rock and morph and change with that or not. And again, that's another thing.
What is happening, honey?
I'm on my phone. Thank you. I'm so glad BC's recording because, oh my God.
She was attached and she got all upside down with her attachment. So
yes.
What I was saying before the world flipped upside down is that when someone else, so I'll take it to the other side for a minute. So Sheila did something, changed her behavior, and other beings around her thought, well, hang on, what's up with this? I mean, we have a script here. We have a dynamic. We have a script. We have a role play. We have slots that we all fill in. And I had identified my identity and my reactions to, and my flow of doing things based on the script, and you're screwing up your lines. So there, in that situation, there's, again, with everything else, it's a frequency. It's either love or fear. So if it's love, you may go, wow, okay, this is different. Feeling kind of lost. I'm feeling kind of pissed. Feeling kind of scared. But I can look outside of myself for a minute and see, you feel different. You seem different. You are different. Okay, well, So then I need to look at myself, because I'm the one in the script that's going with this or not going with this. And that's how we can look at it. If we're fear and we're going, well, it's your fault, or you're not following the script, get back over here and starts, your mark's right here. This is where you're supposed to be on the stage. This is what you're supposed to be saying. That's fear, because, and it's actually the true cause of the fear I'll get to last. It's not, most people would think, well, it's upsetting because this person used to rescue me, or this person used to tell me what to do and I don't know what to do, or this person used to do whatever that I can point to and hang a hat on about how them not following the script is adversely affecting me, and they need to knock it off and get back, toe on the line, stand on the mark, and do the script. And sure, that brings up an amount of consternation and fear. But the true frequency of fear is that they are now having reflected back to them who they are, not from this person, in this case Sheila, shining that, but because it allows them to see how powerful they are, how they don't have to be on any script either unless they consciously choose it. And the fear there is, how do I do that? Can I do that? Do I want to do that? What happens if I'm not on the script? Or, because there's attachments to all those different, there's attachment, maybe there's a job or money or a car or a certain person or whatever it is. And again, it's the identity has been hung on that and that script, and we've lost touch with, perhaps for this whole lifetime, or many, 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 many lifetimes, depending on what we've been choosing. We can't find our own true north because we're spending all of our time looking out there where the finger's pointing. It's their fault, it's her fault, this is not happening right, instead of coming back inside. And this is not at all, absolutely not at all, to be misconstrued. I'm saying, well, start blaming yourself. It has nothing to do with it. In fact, once the blame gets released, once this got done, or they did that, or I can't do this, whatever it is, all of that is letting the past, right? Let go of that. Because as I said, as soon as you can pick it back up again in a moment, but if you can do it for a moment, you've actually changed everything. Then choosing consciously to keep letting it go, and to keep moving on, and to create from there, and to forge a new road. And that road is within you first. It can't, and this is proven by science and every measure, it cannot be out there until you put it out there.
Well, I want to be very clear in some of this, that this is something that it's actually very tied to the grief piece for me. Okay, we've talked before about because I was holding things, like if they only knew, they would do this, that, or the other. Remember, you both remember a lot of my feelings about that, and especially where, again, family, children, friends, and all. And then I finally grokked the whole thing in regards to wait a minute, they are source too. And if this is the choice that they are making, they have a right to make that. And so for me, in finally actually grokking that and laying down my past behavior of, I don't know, wanting that or whatever, some of it has been a little bit, I've had some grief come up for that, because there's, folks in my life that don't want to be in my life because what I'm doing is, really foreign to them. And BZ, you've kind of pointed out before that when someone is doing the internal work, that then kind of shows up in their field of, their soul kind of prompts them. And that's this is so weird. I can't really look at the two of you because you're so small on this phone. I can't. So it's very disorienting. I'm sorry, but it's very disorienting. So there's a whole lot in that for me now. I've laid down those attachments, but that grief is still there.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I'm very clear that what I have been grieving is, the loss of those folks in my life. And it's their choice and their decision, and I honor that. I guess the grieving is the little portion of me, but I'm not beating myself up over that either. I'm now allowing it when it comes up. Lisa very, very poignantly, like I said, pointed out that I was running from that. And I'm using this as a specific thing because it's just happened for me, and it's, it is happening this week in particular. But I think it applies to anything.
Absolutely.
There's still an attachment because, I love them, but I also love them enough to let them be whatever they want to be. And if that means not in my life, then that's cool too. I don't like it, but they have the right to have that. And so I don't know why I felt led to share that, but
well, again, it is the other thing that's helpful to bring back in here is the multidimensionality of you is not just in this physical vessel. And so there is no loss, there is no disconnect, there is no lack of contact. And in fact, there is more connection and more co-creation and more expansion in the higher, if you're going to portion it out, the higher portions of each of those involved. Because again, this is on an embodiment, so the toughest environment, we'll say, just to use as an example, to actually go through this process. And the process ultimately is the unfurling that I spoke about in the rambling that I did this morning. It's the unfurling of all of this. And sometimes that is gorgeous. Like if you watch a flower that's budded one day, and the next morning you walk by and the dew is still on it and the colors are so rich, and you don't even have to touch the flower to see that dewy softness, and it's velvety, and it's really mesmerizing when you look at it. That's one example of the unfurling. But unfurling also happens in what could be seen as a messy or uncomfortable or chaotic perceived way, or bumpy, or shit just got blown up kind of a stuff. And in that unfurling comes all sorts of beauty, because all that extraneous stuff that kept getting slapped on us through however long we've been, on that trajectory away from source, is being removed. And sometimes it's a gentle, and sometimes it's an explosion by each individual being's choice, because of the choices prior to that. And if you can always go back to love, and it's like feel into a moment about laying down. So if you were a firefighter, you've read about firefighters, the Zulis in Montana, and then they get the fire to lay down. So you've got this roaring forest fire, and it's hundreds, perhaps thousands or more acres, and the winds are whipping, and the fire's got them on the run, and they're doing all different tactics to, beat it here, cut a line there, get a cat in, air support, fire suppression, all those kinds of things. And there are energetic frequency and tangible physical manifestations that signal when they're getting the fire to lay down, when the energy has shifted in that, and it can no longer replicate that behavior of energetic frequency. Does that make sense? And so I use that term because or laying down a weapon. If there's been aggression and someone lays, you get someone or you get yourself to lay down the gauntlet, lay down the weapon, just have a cessation of all of that. In the laying down of that, in the letting go of the past, if the past was a nanosecond ago or eons, it doesn't matter. It's another way to say it is that it's that story that you keep repeating and regurgitating, and the attachment to the vibration of frequency of that fear, anger, angst, whatever it is, frustration, hurt, whatever it is, you can lay that down. And in that space, this would be the best meditation that anybody can do, and you don't have to have your eyes closed or anything else. You just lay it down. And you stand in that space where you don't have it fully engulfed and flamed up, right? And you take the breath and you embrace your change. Because as I said, in that moment, you have dramatically changed. If you can embrace that change, if you choose to embrace that, then you create something new. It may have, some more stuff, or maybe to use the fire analogy, spot fires that might come up that you'll have to do the same thing with. But then you're not running away from something, is what Lisa was bringing forward, and the whole energy for you to feel that, which is, it landed so well because you could feel it, right? You're not running away from it. You're going, okay, wow, the air is clear here. It's not so hot. Everything's laid down a little. And I turn and I survey and I go, well, yeah, I want to go that way. And this is what I choose to bring with me. And these are what I choose as my vehicle or my boundaries, or a whole lots of other choices you may make. And you can make them a lot at once or as you go, or however you want to do it. But you're not running away from anything. You're not abandoning anything. You're not stuffing anything down. You're not blocking from anything. You're not resisting anything. You, in that moment of laying it down, letting it go, have actually embraced the totality of who you are. And you are purposely walking forward, diving forward, jumping, flying, right? Flowing down the river of love forward into what's next for you. And that is remarkably different. And it's remarkably different because you will see everything is different. Even in the interactions that you have with others. And even if that interaction is silence, because in theory, you might describe it as, well, they vanished, they don't exist. But it has changed the frequency. And so on one level, you've always been putting your nose where it didn't belong and enabling, and you've quit doing that. And you're not running from that. You've just made an awake and aware, a conscious, demonstrable, heart-based, expansive choice.
Right. Now that's true. I do see that. And I also see that when others take issue with an aware choice that's been made, regardless if it's doesn't even really matter what the choice is, you can put whatever label on it that needs to be. Anytime, and myself included in this, if there is an attachment to whatever that is, then that's not for me. I don't have the attachment. I've laid it down. I've put up a boundary. I've made a choice, and I'm moving in a particular direction. And it doesn't. There's. I've been accused of being cold.
Well, times. you can just sticking right with you for this moment. In that moment, that you are continuing to walk in the path and direction and expansion that you choose rather than running from something. When you're not attached to something else, when you don't have hooks that come up from someone else's perceived behavior to you about X, Y, and Z, because you're not running. So you're empowered, you're a choice, you're in creation point. It doesn't bother you because it's not, has nothing within you that you are reacting to, reflecting back, or engaging with. Right? You're just engaging in new creation. And that means, so not only does that mean there's no judging against them, in this instance there's being, so it's them. There's no attachment to, a wish to, or frustration, or admonishment, none of that. There is only love. Because in that space of expansion and moving forward, there is only love. And that's the thing, that's what I said, this is kind of when people think of it, it's a little bit turned on its head. That's the thing that gives the most pushback. Because that's totally off script for the false construct. Well, where's the blame? Where's the retribution? Where's the bad mouthing? Where's the, lock them up? Where's the pitchforks in the street? Where's all of that kind of stuff? Because if we don't have all that, then how can it be equal? Then how can the perceived slights and hurts and betrayals and murders and, keep thinking whatever, be righted? We've got to do the equal amount of betrayal and this and that and the other thing, and the frying of, and the castigating of, flagellation of, public square hanging of, for it to be equal. Okay, great. If you want linear, if you want polarity, right? So this is bad, this is good, is it enough? Then that's a terrific recipe. Bang on. And then you've just changed, who's playing what roles. Yeah. If one truly is opening their heart and truly is choosing expansion and truly is choosing the third way, that there's something different, which is multidimensional. So being able to have consciousness and hold a conscious perspective from a bilocational, multilocational, and then universal galactic, global, of the galactic sort consciousness, that all that will flow in there. It doesn't diminish, and that's the other thing that people get lost in. It doesn't diminish us in any way.
Well, that's what true compassion actually is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's, like I said, in terms of the conversation in regards to me, the fact that there is still grief there, there's an attachment, and I see
Mhm.
that, I feel that, I get that. I'm okay with it for the moment, in this moment, as I'm not done feeling it, apparently. When I'm ready to put that down,
Yes.
then I will embrace my change from that as well.
Yeah. Because then it's a choice and a movement and an expansion rather than a stuffing down. Oh, I'm done with this. Why am I feeling, because that's just another form of running away.
Right. Well, I can really clearly see for myself, though, in my past, okay, where I didn't grok that I had an attachment to something that I actually did have an attachment to. So I can see where it's easy, to even thinking about, those that want to see well, it's a tit for tat kind of thing, right?
Yep.
Like you were just talking about with the whole, to make it right, they got to hang, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's an attachment to that there, and I can see where, I guess that's kind of what I was talking about there's a bit of a twist that has been thrown in regards to unity and spirituality and all of this, where, you know, um, what is loving, and that sort of thing, and it's like, well, wait a minute, who's making the choices of what's considered loving or not? Hold up, hold on a second. If I feel smothered, is that loving? If I feel, you know what I'm saying, as far as, so I
But
think
that's
that's
where the empowerment, that's where true expansion and an open heart comes in, because none of that touches you.
well,
And
yeah, see, I guess that's what I mean. And what I mean is, okay, so it's really it's not just in my situation here as far as loving is concerned. Okay, because let's go back to the, tit for tat situation with the cabal or whatever, the bad actors, so to think, and the whole idea of hanging them, because that's the only way, to get that tit for tat situation. And then the question is, well, is it loving to the ones that have been done that way, to allow them to go? And the thing of it is that from the most expansive level, yes, it is loving. That's what compassion is. And so I feel like there's, okay, so for a long time I got confused about that. I get it now. I get it now. And sometimes it is still a little confusing when I can't hardly stand this, not being able to see you guys. I feel so disoriented and dizzy looking in this tiny phone at your faces,
well,
and I can't
stop
even
looking at it. Every time you look at it, there's an earthquake.
oh, okay. Well, it's just that I feel like from the most expansive stance, from source itself, all is love. You've said that before. And I got news for you. All includes those that have done some of the most horrific and heinous things. So all of it from the most expansive level has been loving.
Right. And in the same breath, it's important because when a lot of people hear that, they say yes, they feel that, they know that. And a lot of people get head up. And when you get head up, you forgot the part about 100% responsible, accountable, and liable. And you forgot the part that we're eternal creator beings. And you forgot the part that we're not missing anything. And you forgot the part that nothing happens in a vacuum.
Right.
And so, if that's the case, if you remember all those parts, when that holding and coming back to oneself comes and they realize the role that they consciously played in doing this, you couldn't devise a more heartfelt. It's hard to use. I'm using linear words to describe something which are not accurate at all, but I'll go with just the linear words. They're not accurate, just placeholders. But you couldn't describe. You couldn't devise a more visceral, vicious, cruel, deep slash and gash punishment for them, because they're already doing it. And that's a process that their whole evolutionary journey of source going to no source will work through. Them and source will work through it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I mean, I feel clear in myself, in my being, that Lisa and I have talked about this. I was part of helping to set all this crap up on some level. And every one of us who knows for a fact that we are source embodied has to admit that too.
Absolutely.
So, because, you know, I mean, I guess you don't have to if you don't really want to. You know,
well, somewhere along the path one will.
at some point you'll get it.
That's where the holding comes in. And there's no judgment about it. It's not wrong or right. It's not, you know, smarter or not smarter. It has nothing to do with that. It just has consciousness. It's just consciousness. All-inclusive consciousness. Conscious consciousness. Consciously conscious. You know.
Good stuff.
What'd you say, Lisa?
I said good stuff. Couldn't have said it better if I tried.
That's right. And no, I'm not going to repeat it.
Oh, we can just hit play again.
You know, and we move on to what's next. We move on to let's do this. We move on to game on. Move on to let's play.
And now for something totally different.
Because
because
there is such, and this is hard for some to get. Many revel in this and get it. But there has been, and always will be, but such quantum leaps in expansion and evolution, even greater than what was thought was the delicious quantum jumps in all of this, you know, game, experiment, however you want to categorize it. People categorize it different ways. Thought possible. So if we thought we were going to, you know, hit a Grand Slam and the World Series and the this and the that and the that, you know, and God, if we could do that, that would be the best in all of the galaxies and multiverses. It could amazing. And, you know, we blew that right out the door.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel the truth of that. And I also feel there's more coming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So much more.
My computer is still trying to restart itself. I'm so sorry, everybody, for this little hiccup. Don't be too attached to my doing stuff right, because, you know, hey.
Quick clicking buttons.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, BZ, I'm so grateful that you were recording.
Save the day.
Tried to ring. Sorry.
Your sound is going. So let's just say all of the usual things in all usual places. If you feel moved, there you go. And
yeah, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That's the last I want to say.
Good night.
So, till next time.